This video is based off a script written by ChatGPT, an AI language model. The 90s were a decade of crossover events in the world of animation, where characters from different cartoons would team up for epic adventures. In this video, we're counting down the top 10 most memorable cartoon crossovers of the 90s. Number 10. The Simpsons meet the Critic.
Coming up next, the Flintstones meet the Jetsons.
Uh-oh, I smell another cheap cartoon crossover.
Bart Simpson, meet Jay Sherman the Critic.
This crossover event brought together two of the most popular adult animated sitcoms of the 90s. The episode was a hilarious satire of the entertainment industry and the power of TV networks. Number 9. Timon and Pumbaa meet Aladdin. In this crossover, the beloved characters from the Lion King series team up with a hero from Aladdin for a musical adventure. It was a fun and memorable crossover that delighted fans of both franchises. Number 8. Rugrats meet the Wild Thornberrys. This crossover brought together two Nickelodeon shows with vastly different premises. The Rugrats meet the Thornberrys while on a family vacation, and chaos ensues. It was a fun and heartwarming episode that showcased the strengths of both shows. Number 7. Sonic the Hedgehog meets the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. This crossover event brought together two different versions of Sonic, the cool and edgy Sonic from the Sonic the Hedgehog animated series, and the goofier Sonic from the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. It was a fun and exciting episode that showcased the different interpretations of the iconic character. Number 6. Power Rangers meet Ninja Turtles. This crossover event brought together two of the most popular action franchises of the 90s. The episode was a thrilling adventure that pitted the Rangers and the Turtles against their greatest foes. It was a dream come true for fans of both franchises. Number 5. The Jetsons meet the Flintstones. This crossover brought together two of the most iconic animated sitcoms from different eras. The episode was a hilarious clash of cultures as the futuristic Jetsons visit the prehistoric Flintstones. It was a memorable crossover that showcased the strengths of both shows. Number 4. Dexter's Laboratory meet Dial-M for Monkey. In this crossover event, Dexter's superhero alter ego, Monkey, teams up with the Justice Friends, a parody of classic superhero teams like the Avengers and the Justice League. It was a hilarious and action-packed episode that celebrated the superhero genre. Number 3. Animaniacs meet Pinky and the Brain. This crossover brought together two of the most popular shows from the Warner Brothers animation studio. The episode was a hilarious satire of the entertainment industry and the power of TV networks. It was a fan favorite that showcased the strengths of both shows. Number 2. Batman meets Superman. This crossover event brought together two of the most iconic superheroes of all time. The episode was an epic showdown between the Dark Knight and the Man of Steel as they team up to take on their greatest foe. It was a thrilling episode that showcased the strengths of both characters. And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, the top crossover of the 90s is... Number 1. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? While not a traditional cartoon crossover, Who Framed Roger Rabbit brought together some of the most iconic animated characters from various studios, including Disney, Warner Brothers, and MGM. It was a groundbreaking film that blended live action and animation seamlessly and created a new level of immersion for viewers. It was a masterpiece that will be remembered for generations to come. And there you have it, the top 10 most memorable cartoon crossovers of the 90s. Did your favorite make the list? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, coming in at the end of this video to do a bit of a fact check. As the disclaimer said at the beginning of the video, this video was written by ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT is great and it writes great scripts, but it's not 100% reliable. So at the end of some of these videos, I do want to come in and do a fact check to see what ChatGPT got right and what it got wrong. So we're going to go through this list because there are quite a bit of mistakes. So let's go through this list and see what it got right and what it got wrong. Now, the first one on this list was The Simpsons Meet the Critic. So this one did happen. It was an episode of Season 6, Episode 18 of The Simpsons, called A Star is Burns, and Jay Sherman, the critic from The Critic, comes to Springfield and lives with The Simpsons for a film festival. The next one was Timon and Pumbaa Meet Aladdin, and this one did not happen at all. Timon and Pumbaa did have a TV show back in the 90s, so did Aladdin, but they never did a crossover. Now, it is interesting that it does bring up this crossover because Aladdin did do a crossover with another Disney show in the 90s. This one was Hercules, and it was the Hercules episode, Hercules and the Arabian Nights, in 1999. So I don't know why you didn't include that one. Well, perhaps you didn't know about it. The next item on the list was Rugrats Meet the Wild Thornberrys. Now, this one does exist, kind of. It wasn't an episode of either series, like ChatGPT seems to think. It was a movie called The Rugrats Go Wild. It was actually released in 2003, so not quite in the 90s. So it doesn't quite meet the criteria for this list. But otherwise, it got the plot right. They do meet while the Rugrats go on vacation. The next item on the list is Sonic the Hedgehog meets the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, there were two Sonic the Hedgehog series, Sonic the Hedgehog and the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, that were running basically at the same time. The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog ran from 1992 to 1993, and Sonic the Hedgehog ran from 1993 to 1994. So there was a point where they maybe could have had a crossover. They just didn't. Now this next item on the list, Power Rangers meets Ninja Turtles. Now, I did not know that this happened, but they did in fact have a crossover. It was actually an episode of Power Rangers in Space called Shell Shocked, and it was released in 1998, and I didn't watch the episode, so I don't know what happens. But the live action versions of the Ninja Turtles, I guess puppets or suits or something, show up in an episode of the Power Rangers. The next item is The Flintstones Meet the Jetsons, and this was a TV movie that it did happen, but it was released in 1987, just short of the criteria to be on this list. The next item, Dexter's Lab meets Dial-M for Monkey. Now, I'm not quite sure if you could even call this one a crossover because they're both from the same show. Back in the 90s, a lot of shows, including Dexter's Lab, had a 3 shorts format. So there were 3 segments that would run in the same half-hour episode. So you usually have 2 segments for Dexter's Lab and a third segment for something else. One of those shows was Dial M for Monkey, and this starred the monkey that you would see in Dexter's Lab, but as a superhero, and he would fight villains. Now this monkey would show up in Dexter's Lab, and on a few occasions would turn into the superhero monkey. And in one episode would actually Dexter would see Monkey's superhero alter ego, and that episode is Last But Not Beast, in which there's a giant kaiju monster that's released, and Dexter and Monkey and a bunch of superheroes would try to fight this monster. Now, one thing ChatGPT seems to get wrong about this is it calls Monkey Dexter's superhero alter ego, like Dexter turns into Monkey, and that's just completely wrong. But I don't even think this one would even count, because they're from the same show. You can't really cross over in the same show, can you? Now the next item falls into that same category. Animaniacs meets Pinky and the Brain. Now these are two shows. There are two shows, one called Animaniacs, one called Pinky and the Brain. But Pinky and the Brain is actually a spin-off. They started out as a segment on Animaniacs. So once again, this isn't a crossover. They were the same show. Now the next item, Batman meets Superman. Now these two characters originated in comics way before the 90s. And they were parts of superhero teams and team-ups, including the Justice League. They were even in the Super Friends together long before the 90s. But in the 90s, they both got their own animated shows. And these two versions, these versions of these two characters did do several crossovers and team-ups in the 90s. The first of these crossovers occurred in 1997 in the three-parter episode World's Finest, where they fight each other briefly before teaming up against the Joker and Lex Luthor. And the last item on the list, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Now this is a massive crossover. It does feature characters from Disney cartoons and Looney Tunes and others. I'm not quite sure if it should really count for this list, since those are more cameos than an actual crossover story. But the main reason why I don't think it should qualify for this list is that it came out in 1988 and not in the 1990s. So it's a great movie with a lot of different characters from different properties, but it's not a 90s film. So that's the list. That's the fact check. So it got some right. The Simpsons Meet the Critic, Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, and Batman and Superman. But all these others, it just either it took shows that took took characters that were already in the same show, but maybe had spin-offs later, or crossovers that existed just before or just after the 90s, or it would just make stuff up like Timon and Pumbaa meet Aladdin. So the reason why I bring this up is because I want to show people that even though ChatGPT doing many things, it's not always accurate, and sometimes it can make mistakes. Sometimes it just makes stuff up. Uh, just lie to you. So anytime you use ChatGPT to try to learn new things or get information, it's always a good idea to do a fact check like this one. Well, anyway, that's my video. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe and like this video and leave a comment. Goodbye.